Welcome to the FMCG guys, coming to you from London at the Retail Media Summit UK, brought to you by SMG and Path to Purchase Institute. Today I am excited to be joined by Christina Jenkins from Colgate Palmolive. Hi Christina, how are you?
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. Slightly nervous, my first podcast, so I'm thrilled to be with you.
We will make it as painless as possible, I promise you that. But thank you again for joining us. So today we're just going to have a casual conversation about what else? Retail media, right? We're here at the Retail Media Summit, so of course we should be talking about this. So, but before we do that, would love to familiarize our audience with a little bit about you and what you're doing at Colgate Palmolive. So could you tell us a little bit about your background and your experience?
Yeah, so I've been working in retail media or shopper marketing for the last 14 years, and serendipitously I started at Capture, who, as we all know, is now part of SMG. So yeah, in 2010 I joined Capture when I think they had 12 people, and I worked there for 5 years and learned heaps about shopper marketing. And then I decided to take my career and my journey brown side. And during that time I worked for Andros, who own Bon Maman, so the wonderful red gingham jam and dessert people. Then I had the pleasure of going to work for PepsiCo, so a big global blue chip with a ton of just amazing brands. And then most recently have moved to Colgate Palmolive 2.5 years ago. So I feel like, I'm not saying that crisps are bad for you, but I feel like toothpaste is much better for you. So I've gone on that journey, on a health journey, to help people in a more healthy way. So now at Colgate Palmolive, I had a team of 7, and we deliver all the omni-channel media that you will see across our retail partners, both in-store and online. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
No, it sounds like you've gotten the chance to work with some really big, iconic brands over your career. As a former Coca-Cola employee, we can still plan to...
we can still talk.
We will keep this amicable.
And then you just brush your teeth with Colgate toothpaste and all is well.
Happy days indeed. So I'm curious, given your experience, both originally back at Capture from a shopper marketing perspective, but now, as you said, leading omnichannel activation, just to get your perspective in regards to over your career, how have you seen retail media kind of start to shift or evolve how we think about FMCG and, like, I guess, marketing and activation at FMCG?
For me, retail media has come a long way, and like the analogy I use is like, in 2010 you had a magazine advert, and you'd be like, great, I'm going to put it in my Sainsbury's magazine, and you'd make one version and you'd send it off. And now you need 40 different formats, and you need an animated one, and you need a digital one, and you need a QR code on it, or you need something else. And the variety, the complications is really complex, and it builds in loads more work, but the opportunity is huge. So the people that we can reach with more bespoke, personalized data is unique. And it has really changed from what I feel like it was really kind of broad brush, really basic marketing to something that can be so personalized and so targeted. But I still think we've got a long way to go to get to grips with it and really, really understand how we use it to the best of our ability.
No, absolutely. And I imagine, I think I actually heard somebody earlier today here at the conference say that it's complex to make something simple, right? So with something like this, I imagine that's something that we probably have to remind ourselves of constantly.
Absolutely. We often look at how we spend our time and where we put our efforts and things, and one of them is that we spend more time now creating different elements of the different parts of the funnel, whereas before you would have had an advert, and then you'd have a press kind of print advert, and then you might have some barkers and some alphins, and now you've got offsite, you've got onsite, you've got search, and within that there's different messages that you can land, because somebody that's in their consideration phase doesn't want the same message that someone's like, I'm loyal, I'm there, I'm sold, just tell me where it is and where it's on deal. So you have to build that in, and that creates complexities. So yeah, it's hard work to make it simple, and we're on that journey.
Yeah, well, I think the thing we have to remind ourselves as folks in the FMCG world is that we are not alone.
No.
Right? I think a lot of us are on that same journey as well. And I'm curious, again, going back to your earlier days at Capture back in, let's say, more traditional shopper marketing, how have you been able to take the skills that you learned in that walk of life and combining it with what you've learned more recently from an omni-channel perspective? How have those two worlds kind of come together in terms of your skill set?
So I think for me they are quite similar. I think first and foremost, what is your objective? So being laser focused on that and kind of keep peeling back, so what, until you really get to that insight and that objective. And I think whether you come from a really kind of more broad brush or more high level, top level marketing versus down to like, what are the levers, what are the media pieces that we want to invest in? Actually, if you've got a really specific objective, that's still the same. So that's still the objective. How do we want to think, feel, do? If you can get to that, whether you're kind of a broader shopper marketing lens or now a retail marketing lens. And so therefore you're going to have your stakeholder management, you're going to have your sign-off processes, you're going to have like your understanding of your customers and their profiles and their needs and their wants and their drivers and their barriers. That hasn't changed. But what has changed is the platforms and the opportunities that we have, and kind of, I guess, blending that with the wealth of data and making sure that we kind of synthesize that together. So I think the skill set isn't changing a lot. It's just making it fit nicely with what the capabilities are.
Yeah. No, I love that you mentioned think, feel, do. That was something that I remember from my earlier days at FMCG with one of my former managers, that he would like drill that into us, and then like, you know, what is it that you want the consumer or the shopper to think, to feel, to do? And if you can answer those questions, then you're on the right track. You know, but I love your point around, like you said, that we're not necessarily eschewing those prior skills, but it's almost like, if I think about it, you know, like as a cross trainer athlete, if you will, like we're building a new muscle, right, around things like data and around things like some of the technology platforms that are coming up. I'm curious, you know, kind of going back to the things that haven't changed, whether you were in shopper marketing or you're in shopper marketing or you're in omni-channel or you're in retail media, which is customer collaboration and working with key accounts. And I'm just curious as to your perspective as to how retail media has evolved or maybe shifted or changed your engagement with those key accounts at Colgate Palmolive.
It has changed dramatically, where in the past you would have had a suite or a toolkit of media that you could invest in. It is absolutely now a strategic platform, and it is part of a JBP, or it's a bigger conversation from top to bottom in our customers. They want to know how you're investing, potentially because they put huge investment into new media channels and they want to see them work. And they also want a win-win. So we want win with our customers, we want to win with our retailers, and we want to win for our brands. So it has changed so much, and I'm really excited to see that retail media is starting to transcend all levels of the business. Now, there are certain things that we're like, how do you get the juggernaut to change? Because you've got silos, you've got customer development and sales, and then you've got infrastructure and you've got supply chain. And that, I think, is still really on the journey. But that's also exciting. Yeah. Because we can shape it, we can learn from it, we can optimize it. That's the excitement of think about retail media, that is always changing. And I don't know that you can say that about some of the other aspects of like retail. You know, I get a buzz out of it, like just learning and changing and strategizing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to me, you know, I love this concept of keeping things simple, right? I think we can always add complexity as things go along. But going back to your point around, you know, that the retail media is starting to grow in awareness and I guess in importance across the business and across the different levels in the organization. I imagine that, you know, at its core, one of the things that retail media helps us do quite well is understanding our consumers. Yeah. Right? So I'm curious to get your perspective as to like, has that been the case at Colgate Palmolive, and can you share with us a couple of examples of how maybe that's helped in terms of that journey with retail media? So
we're currently doing a piece of work with Nectar actually, which is looking at one of our key kind of like business challenges, and they're starting to do a real deep dive into all of that data, but looking at it from the multifaceted lens. So where you might brief a media agency, like these are the shoppers, this is what we want them to think, feel, do. We've got lapsed shoppers here, we want it new, we want to launch an MPD. Actually, what we've gone to them with is like a business challenge. So we've asked them to look at the multifaceted pieces that impact that, from different behaviors, any like political or like cost of living crisis, what our competitors are doing. So it's not just kind of going, oh, what can a media plan do? It's the whole piece, and share of shelf, footfall, price optimization, promotion, the role of all these things. And then bringing that all together into like a retail media piece and saying, this is how we can help you. And I think that's the sweet spot, rather than just kind of, we have to bring all the pieces of the pie together. And I think slowly but surely we will. I mean, maybe we'll just cherry pick the pieces and the challenges that we want to do that on. But that's quite exciting.
But I imagine that's got to be exciting not just for you, but it's got to be pretty exciting for your agency partner as well, for Nectar, right? Because like you said, you've gone from like a tactical activation campaign to saying, no, we want to tackle this as a strategic challenge, right? And I think it's like you said, it opens all sorts of doors in terms of opportunities.
Yeah, so when we first briefed them, I was really specific, and I was like, just to be super clear, whilst we put our brief on the table and we've got lots of different information here, we're not asking you to come back with a retail media plan that resolves it or solves it or helps it. What we want for you to come back is go, actually, we've uncovered this, we've discovered that. This could help it. Hypothetically, this could help it. Or have you tried this? So you don't have to have all the answers, but what we want is that, again, multifaceted approach to it that says, actually, the sum of the parts is this. Why don't you try that?
Yeah. Well, so this actually is a great segue into my next question, which is going to ask around investment behind retail media, right? Because I think when you can start to demonstrate the value that an entity like retail media can bring, all of a sudden the budget conversations start to get a little bit easier in regards to how are you going to allocate investment into this new space. So can you share with us anything a little bit around that in terms of like some of the wins you've had and maybe even like the challenges?
The wins we've had largely are in the digital space. Because the data is there, it's really easy to prove. But because of the role that retail media has strategically in JBPs, in wider, kind of more broader conversations, the investment unlock has become a more regular conversation. I wouldn't say easier, because you still have to prove, but there's definitely a greater understanding of the role and purpose of it, and therefore the allocation is greater. So we have been able to increase our investment into retail media, which I am delighted with, and we're able to prove the success of it. So it is a virtuous circle, which is really exciting.
Well, like I said, going back to the when you have this broader, more strategic view around how you're using retail media to really drive that omni-channel activation, I imagine it's not just exciting for you and your team and let's say the agency partners that you choose to work with, but I gotta imagine it's pretty exciting for the retailers as well, right? I mean, I think hopefully they get jazzed about the fact that you're bringing to them a more holistic view as part of that JBP, as opposed to saying, I'm going to give you the very siloed one-offs in a way.
Yeah, I think they probably are. I think it's only going to grow as well. And I think the key there is relationships then, because you've got to start to build that kind of growth mindset with the ambition. And I guess my ask to our retail partners is to have that, to come with the opportunities and the proof, and then let's drive forward together.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, I think we'll be very excited, hopefully, to hear you share those details at next year's event. I'm curious. Now, we've talked a little bit about in terms of like, the fact that you have to build the mindset, you have to build capabilities, obviously, internally. I'm curious as to like how, thinking more broadly than I guess just omni-channel and from a digital first standpoint. I'm curious, can you share with us a little bit about how that has become a part of the culture at Colgate Palmolive?
So actually nearly a year ago, I took over the lead of Omnichannel at Colgate Palmolive, and that was the opportunity for me to look at the team structure. And I took a bold step along with the support of my boss, which was to restructure to have a performance marketing manager within our team. And that enabled me to be able to bring in an expert who was digitally first, with a digital first mindset and experience. But I really felt there was tremendous growth and opportunity, first and foremost in retailer search and also in digital offsite. And that has paid back in spades, not only from the breadth of experience that person has brought in, but their ability to be laser focused in the performance of those two areas, but also in the results that we've got. And I have been so pleased with the results that we're looking at how we scale that up even more in multiple different ways, but it was absolutely the right thing to do. And I kind of expect really similar results in the way that can expand and work even more.
Well, I imagine it's got to be, also somewhat personally fulfilling for the individual as well, because he or she is now recognized as a subject matter expert, and they're able to, help share that expertise with the broader team, and obviously the team benefits as well because they get to learn, right? So I think this whole concept of digital ambassadors and like having that expand across the business, I think is an opportunity for a lot of FMCG brands.
Absolutely. She has done an absolutely stellar job, and she's seen as an absolute ninja in her class, in her field, and we are delighted to have her within our team. And interestingly, last week I was at the Tesco Upfront event, and they talked about the T structure. So you have planners, but you have ninjas that go up who are brilliant at media planning, or they're amazing at creative development. And that really sparked in me how to drive forward at pace and growth within the new areas that could be coming. And I think I'll keep that tucked in my brain just to see, because for sure breadth is brilliant, but there will be some parts where a ninja will really drive that, that growth.
I love it's harkening back to the T versus the I-shaped marketer discussions. And that's a great, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to make myself a note to kind of remember that as well for some of my conversations at my brand. Given, again, both your expertise in terms of like what you've learned over the years, but also now looking forward, what are you most excited about here in the coming year in the area of retail media?
I really hope measurement is the thing that we are talking about with like passion and vigor next year, because I think that is the piece that could really transform everything. And I think everyone is on a journey, and we all need to collaborate to be on that journey. But we have the ability, we've seen today how we can do that A/B testing, the role and purpose being super focused on what your objective is, and then go and find the measurement and the test. So I hope measurement, I really hope measurement. That's going to be one of our pillars next year, is to be able to be in a better place this time next year to say, year on year, our performance, these are kind of the drivers, the drainers. How do we work better? And the data, hopefully, and the measurement and the analysis, I think, is the key to do that. And that's what I'm excited about.
I love it. Me too. So I have one final question. This is a question that we ask all of our podcast guests, which is we ask them to, if they could go back in time, get in a time machine and go back and meet their younger selves at the beginning of their career, and they give that individual one piece of advice at the start of their career, your career, what would that be?
Trust your gut. Absolutely. Trust your gut. Be that like with your values and how you work, because I think if you align to that, things just are so much easier. But then you can also do that on instinct in your work, in your relationships, in the decisions you make. Be unapologetically you. And then I think a lot of things just sit easier, so you don't second guess and question everything.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.